There it is. Looks like it's streaming on Facebook.
Oh, fantastic. You see it before I do. Hi,
I did. Yes, there it is.
fantastic. Welcome everybody. I am coming back to you again as my continued commitment to our mental health series. This is our mental health series interview number 10. Today I'm speaking with Mary Allen, and I'm super excited to introduce you to our community, both Mary and community. Mary Allen is an inner peace coach, and we're going to be approaching our mental health from the perspective of finding your inner peace during a time of crisis or uncertainty. So, Mary, could you please give us a quick introduction as to who you are and what your work looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I have been a life and business coach for the last 21 years. And I know Lainey was part of some branding work, gosh, back in the day. But I lead inner peace immersion retreats. I've created audio programs. I've written a book called The Power of Inner Choice. And somewhere along the journey, I used to have this, I had a friend who was like all into like inner peace should be your number one. At the time I was inner peace, inner schmeesh. I thought I'm too busy for this. I'm more of a type A, let's get things done, let's keep things moving. And I thought it sounded so boring. But I then found myself in back-to-back breakups, and I just moved into a new place. And all of a sudden that inner peace thing was sounding good. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the beginning of just this, I don't know if you call it fascination with inner peace. Ran into a very, very challenging, difficult relationship. And it was actually in the most tremendous emotional pain that I really had this awakening that I was like, inner peace. It's like, this is our guiding compass of whether we're aligned with life or we're not. And so I've spent the last 15 years or so just helping it be more accessible for people in everyday life.
And I love that. And you did mention that I know you from my professional life before I
Yeah.
started world schooling. So that you're right, it's going on like 13, 14 years or maybe even longer. And when I started to produce this series for our community, I started to, brainstorm all the people I knew and all the different aspects of what would be useful to our community during a time of uncertainty. And you and I had a conversation before we went live about kind of the differences between world schoolers and those that live a stationary life. And right now, we're faced with very specific fears that if we don't find our inner peace around changes, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to move through those things.
Sorry, my dog. I told the kids not to come in. Cruiser didn't get it.
He didn't get
that
the.
is fast, right?
So can you just talk a little bit about inner peace in a time of uncertainty?
Yes, I think more than any other time, like this is really like why do we need inner peace? It's like we are dialed in. This is where we have us to our greatest sense of guidance. The guidance that set you on your way to travel the world came out of a moment of stillness, not out of a moment of frenzy. It was of clarity. When we're tapped into our peace, we make great decisions. We're able to focus. We are way more productive. We are flexible. It's better for our health and well-being, right? When we're in even 5 minutes of intense stress can lower our immune system for the next 5-6 hours. Like we have to like sink that in. Like when we're stressed and when we're in just resistance to life that's going on, like we're having our well-being. So we owe it to ourselves and our kids to, like, I get it. It's so much more challenging, but we first have to really get that we really need to find a way to make this a priority. Like more, we had stress before, right? I mean, everybody has kids, right? You got kids and you guys have a lot of extra travel. You guys are super adaptable and flexible as it is. But as soon as we get too stressed, like our ability to be as flexible diminishes, right? Gets us in more of that stuck place. So, and when we and also when we're not in our peace, we can't be as present for our kids, right? This is the time more than ever where we get to be that role model, give them the presence and attention so that they can continue to feel safe and like business, business is normal. I mean, what's great about your community, I so love this, Lainey, is you guys are adaptable creatures. I mean, probably if anyone is more armed and prepared for the uncertainty of the times, it's your community. You guys are flexible, adaptable. Like you guys got the ninja moves. Like we should learn from you on just navigating change because you guys are really good at change. The thing what we just need to do, because I get it, like I'm about peace and I'm finding it more challenging these times to, where's my center? It's like, self-care practices go by the wayside. We have to establish new habits and patterns. So it is, maybe the metaphor for all of you, it's like, what do you do when you show up to a new location? Like, what do you do to reestablish your routine? Right? There's things that you do, Lainey, I am sure of this, that when you move to a new place, there's that discombobulated period that anyone feels anytime they've just moved into a new home or, visiting a new destination. But like, what do you do to kind of reestablish the habits and patterns? Getting your shop set up, your home set up, like how you're going to teach your kids, how you're going to fit in your self-care. And that's what we have to do here, only, it's the whole world is doing it at the same time.
So you bring up self-care. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about maybe or share a little bit of strategies, one or two strategies for self-care during this time.
Yes. Well, a couple of my favorites. First off, I'm a big fan of veggie smoothies. So you got to keep these going, right? I know you are too. So, and I noticed the first week of being at home with my kids, I fell off the wagon, but I had to go back to, okay, how did I eat before all this, right? And get back to veggie smoothies and so forth. Also, I'm a big fan of yoga, and of course now we can't go to yoga, but there's so many wonderful online yoga instructors, and I was so happy. Very, very favorite yoga instructor tagged me in a video the other day, and so now I get my favorite yoga instructor on my big TV. You can sync it to your TV and literally do yoga in your living room and do it with your kids. I invited my kids to do that. And let me offer up one other one, and I'm going to thank my kids for this, and this includes your kids. So since my kids are now home too, like everybody else's, they built this 8-bedroom tent in our bonus room, right? With chairs and blankets and anything that they could find to kind of, and they created, there's actually 3 meditation rooms in their tent. And I thought it was so funny. I, of course, teach inner peace, and I was leading this 30-day inner peace experiment. So I guess it's not a big surprise that they created, a meditation room. And they said, well, this is where we do our 7-minute meditation. And we decided as a family, like I'm going to give them credit for it. We've done some meditation in the past with the kids, but they were really the ones like, well, we need to do our 7-minute meditation. So John and I crawled in the tent with them. They're in their tent, we set the iPad for 7 minutes. And you know what? We did the quiet meditation. And you know what? It was like yesterday, especially, we did it. It was our third time yesterday, which again, the kids' idea, but it was so great. Like I needed it. I needed to down regulate the nervous system. And this is where I want you to think in terms of self-care, not just the normal things you do, but to really think, okay, my nervous system needs to be down regulated. So things like stretching, meditation. I mean, Lainey, you're out in nature. So nature is so good for that. But really to think, calming down the nervous system.
And what I love about what you just said is that really goes into what I call the partnership paradigm of a family culture, which is modeling instead of like teaching your children what you want to do. You model by doing it, and they learn, and they've got the intrinsic motivation to create that, to mimic, to do what the parents do on their own. And it's that much more powerful for them.
Yeah.
And that's incredible for me. And then the other thing is, oh wait, you know what? I just lost what the heck I was going to say. Love that. Oh my gosh. It'll come back to me, I promise. Anyway, I just wanted to say those three techniques are just perfect. And that the more tools that you can put in your arsenal to address uncertainty is incredible. Why don't we talk a little bit about what parents can do to support their children's mental health?
Well, I think the biggest one starts with what we've been talking about here, which is being that role model. If you are out and in a work mode, they're going to be picking up on that. And I know that that's true with some of my mom friends who are more worried. You see it show up in the kids' behavior. So, okay, so for starters, we need to be the role model. But we also need to, I think, show that we can feel our feelings as well. So it's not about being some stoic, like I'm all perfect and nothing bothers me. It's like when stuff is really bothering you, it's like speak into that. I've had my frustrating moments with my kids. And so you speak to it about what's going on for you. And then, you might need to clean it up if you went overboard or something. But at least what we've done for mental health is really, it's putting together a new structure. We did our little spreadsheet of, you homeschoolers probably have way more tools than I do in this arena, but just what they're supposed to do each day. I think the physical, our school has PE, as we're supposed to get 2 of those a day. And at first I was like, like one more thing to do. But really, I think them getting out and moving and exercising is truly one of the best medicines. Gratefully, my husband, when he takes and walks the dog, he takes the kids, and then I get a chance to work. But I think that's a super big one. And I think also we need to have that extra compassion for our kids during this time. They're probably catching up and trying to understand this whole thing. So I think just as parents, like we always have to be sensitive to all the dynamics that are affecting the well-being of our kids, and just, meet that with grace and compassion and really more love and attention.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Do you have any thoughts on how we should speak to our children about what's going on in the world around us, and then also about what's going on in our own inner worlds as parents?
Yeah. So first off, so I love this question. And my daughter literally asked me this question 2 days ago. So, and what I shared with her, so there's this great book called A Germ's Journey. And probably, I guess we got this book when my kids were like 3, 4, but even we still go back to this book and they're 7.5. I have twins that are 7.5. But this is so great. It literally goes through like how germs, like, how they come along, how they multiply, and then how they get transferred. So when we were living in Israel for 4 months, for some reason I ordered this book, and we were sick a lot in Israel, but it really helped them understand about washing hands, about coughing into an elbow, just being super mindful and really understanding how really basically cold spread. But what I explained to my kids as it relates to coronavirus is I'm like, well, the book, A Germ's Journey. So the coronavirus is just like these germs, only they're able to move quicker from person to person, right? And originally what happened is, animals have germs, and originally it was with an animal, but then it jumped over to a human being, and our bodies is having to figure out, wow, what to do with this germ? How do we get rid of it? We've learned how to get rid of these kind of germs, but our bodies are working. And some people, obviously our older generation, and people that have underlying conditions, like their body's not as prepared to be able to fight off those germs. And that's where I went in with my daughter Shanti about, this is why it's important that we really eat well and we do things to have strong immune systems. And younger kids generally have stronger immune systems. That's why they're able to fight this off better. So I think that at least that landed pretty well with my daughter. My daughter's like, well, I eat really well. There's another book called Why Should I Eat Healthy, which is also great, about good eating habits. But that's essentially what I explained there. And I think just on the mental health front, I'm going to just dovetail into just, the importance of a calm mind. Like I always talk with them about how important it is to find our calm, and that's a practice and we have to work at that. And so when they are upset, I'm offering, okay, I need you to find your calm here. And I'd love to share this story. One of the times when my daughter was having a meltdown, we were actually on our way to Legoland and heading towards, San Diego. And I think it was one of the early times when, she didn't have the passy in the car for the first time. And I was kind of late to the game to getting rid of that. So no judgment there, but we were traveling and such, but we were on our way and she was just having this major meltdown. I'm driving on the freeway and I'm like, Shanti, I need you to find your calm. I need you to find your calm. And honestly, this was like a 20-25 minute meltdown. I know maybe some of you can relate. And then all of a sudden she found her calm. And what I said, Shanti, you know what? Like, first off, I'm so proud of you for finding your calm. Like, I think we can really acknowledge our kids when they are calm. So that's a big piece. But I said, Shanti, what was so amazing and how quickly you found your calm once you decided. And Shanti said, yeah, Mom, that's the hardest part, deciding. Right? So it's like, and it's true for adults, right? Like we can be like in our stuff, but when we finally decide, nope, you know what, I am going to transcend this. I'm going to go against every part of my nervous system that wants to like scream and just be enraged. And it's like, no, I'm going to find, like we have to be willing to make that decision. And that is the hardest part, is just deciding. And I love that story that my daughter doesn't remember saying that, but man, I've told that story so many times because it's so powerful.
Yeah, That really is powerful. And I love what you shared about the book about germs, right? Whatever is age appropriate and to framing it in such a way that they'll understand. And I love how you followed up with the importance of taking care of our immune system, which means eating healthy. And that making that connection can be a powerful lesson for a young child, and again, age appropriate information really seems to be the key here.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted to follow up with a question about the calm. You're calling it the calm. Can you describe maybe an age appropriate way to introduce this concept to maybe a child who is maybe still toddler, and then maybe talk about how you would introduce it to a child who's a little bit older?
Yeah, so such a great question. So I think a good way, and this is how Montessori has often done it, is talking about um, like that like inside of our bodies, like we have like this calm, we have this calm place, like it's here, it's inside of everybody. And sometimes things happen to where the light that is the calm kind of gets petered out a little bit, right? But if we stop and be still, maybe we set up like a like a peace table, for example. I used to do this with my kids where, they could come in and like this is obviously for the younger kids, but like if you just stop for a minute, and slow down, that calm light within you can go back on, right? Um, Also, as a kid, I think I might have around. Let's see where. Like I would have different on my table, different stones. I just found these random ones. But sometimes what I would do with the smaller ones is I would, especially when I had to work, is like I would put like love infusion in the stone, and then it felt like they needed mommy time or extra that love energy, they could come and they grab a rock, right, and use this as an anchor to like reconnect to love, reconnect to their calm. Does that make sense? um and then I think for older kids, I hadn't thought about that as much, but I think somewhere around I've read 7, 8, that kids are able to, like they develop their consciousness, right? And which is to say that they can become like aware of themselves. Like the idea of awareness is a little bit more of an elusive concept. I think, 7 and under, I think it's like they're just not going to get, like I tried to explain to my daughter about the witness, right? And it kind of freaked her out. My husband told me later that she was like all worried about like the witness, right? But I think in our older kids, so like once they have like this ability like to recognize like within ourselves, there's like all the thoughts that are going on about, oh, I want to do this, or I want to do that, or I love this, I don't like that, ooh, I feel cold, I feel hot. Like there's the common conversation about whatever's going on in our thoughts. But then if we can gently guide an adult, a teenager, to notice that there's a part of us that is just a witness, that's just aware that we're cold, we're hot, we're hungry, we're tired. Oh, the awareness just noticed a thought that went through, it just noticed a reaction that went through. Like this place of awareness, this is the part that if we can get, I point here because it feels like there is a part of our brain known as area 13 that gets lit up inside of monks that are meditating. So they've done scientific, there's actually a part of our brain that if we spend time in, awareness, that muscle grows stronger. And the stronger that muscle is, the greater access we do have to inner peace. So that's probably like a long conversation with, say, a teenager, but maybe you can help translate. Can you translate that better for? I know you've got that more the teenager type years.
Yeah, and actually, I've worked a lot with the teens. I work with teens, so we talk a lot about mindfulness, and yeah, being the observer of your thoughts is part of it. But I think from an inner peace perspective, I've never made that connection, and that's pretty powerful. I think also any mindfulness practices that you can do will help you find that place of calm. I've just never heard it called and referred find your calm.
Yeah.
That
So,
and for you to use the analogy of the flame, I'm thinking of the wind blowing here and the flame going up
yeah,
and down, and that's it makes it real to me, and I think that would be an amazing way to describe that to younger kids.
yeah. It's definitely a practice, and I think too when they are calm is a good time to catch them and like, to notice like what's life like when you're calm. And obviously it's much harder for any of us to talk about, what's it like when you're in it, right? But or maybe like right after you're in it, because really the ego does take over at a certain level, and the same level of conscious thought isn't quite as available because your reptilian brain is so been hijacked.
Yeah, and the thing that makes where we are living in a time of uncertainty in this pandemic right now is we don't know when that's going to change. So the uncertainty is the only thing that's certain, that we're aware of. Can you talk about managing inner peace when we're
Yeah,
uncertain?
right. Well, so first off, with uncertainty, we're all having our very human reactions to it. And to just say it's normal, right? Our brain is wired for flight or fight. And so the very first inner peace tool is self-compassion, right? To just know that you are human. It's okay that you're feeling like this. It's okay to feel uncertain. It's like, not making yourself wrong, no judgment. It's like, like I'm caught up in a human emotion. I'm caught up in this. And self-compassion is one of the quickest paths back to peace. Like if we just, it's like we got to love ourselves up, love our kids up. And this like kind of helps us get back to peace. So that's for starters. I think the other key in inner peace in uncertain times is first knowing is inner peace is possible anytime, anywhere. Like just to really take that in, like right, moments before this call, there was loud construction going on next door, right? And I'm like, that's not right. My mood for, talking about inner peace, right? But no matter what, and even with that going on, like inner peace isn't defined by the external. Inner peace is an inside job. And I know once you keep practicing finding peace, especially in the challenging moments. So like this is such great playground for all of us. Like if we can find peace in the midst of this pandemic, just think how much easier life is going to be after, right? But I want to instill this belief that you can find it. Like we do find it. We stop, we turn off the news, we turn off, we try and melt the thoughts by maybe we do yoga, we do meditation, we start stepping into gratitude, we physically move our bodies, we create joy, we just get present with our kids. Like there's things we can do. And as soon as we start recognizing, what, I really can find peace in any moment. This is like one of the most powerful things I hope everybody walks away from. It really is accessible at any moment. and we're still going to get stuck. So it's like, you know, when you have those moments, again, go back to tip number one, self-compassion, then remind yourself, no, I can do some things. So then let's, so what else could we do? So there's, you know, we've kind of touched upon some of the things like nature, like the powerful soothers, right? The practice of being present. In fact, I teach about now practices, which is the practice of being present. So taking a little simple activity that you do every day anyway, but consciously deciding I'm going to practice being more present during that activity. So we can build that being present muscle, because this is where inner peace lies. And if we can just get good at bringing ourselves back to the present moment, like that's where peace is. Peace is in the present moment. Peace is in when we're more identified with our place of awareness than our thoughts or our emotions. Does that make sense? Gratitude, right? Like, you know, how much, I mean, I'm looking at your beautiful place, lady. It's like, you know, you are like surrounded, you are living in paradise, right? And it's like, okay, access to the beach. It's like you are doing something you're passionate about. You're with your amazing son. You know, you've got just, you know, you're surrounded by amazing community. Like there's so much to be grateful for. That's like probably the scratch the surface, right? As it is for all of us, right? We have so much to be grateful for. And just that, being grateful for what is here and what we can do, is a big one. And you know, out of any moment, my girlfriend was a great inspiration on this. On her birthday, right? Birthday, like a lot of people can't get together for birthday parties, and literally at 4:30 on a Monday, she sends a text to a bunch of her friends and say, we're going to do this virtual dance party on Zoom because, you know, I'm, you know, going to salvage my birthday somehow, some way. I'm like, you know, it was the first day my kids were home, you know, all day. Like, I really didn't want to get on the virtual dance party, but we got on, and it was so fun to see and connect with, you know, see everybody's pets and kids and their spouses, and some people had champagne, and we had a virtual dance party. It was kind of dorky for 30 minutes, right? But we can create, like, this is where I think the muscle of your community is going to be extraordinary, because you guys are so creative and so flexible. So, you know, get back to that center place and like, okay, like, how do we make this amazing? How can I give myself the feeling of freedom, even though geographically I got to stay put for, you know, a month or a few weeks or, you know, 2 months, whatever the number is, right? How do I give myself that freedom? And there's endless ways. It's not as confined as sometimes the mind thinks.
Yeah, and I think it's powerful to recognize that all of the stress that we're feeling, not only there's stuff happening in the outer world, but it's the inner world where we have the control. So thank you for pointing that out and sharing so eloquently in a way that makes sense. It's accessible. It's accessible, and that's what I'm getting. Yeah.
Yes.
In your opinion, when is it time for somebody who just can't get a grasp on controlling the thoughts or the stress, and when is it time for somebody to seek outside help?
Well, I'm a big fan of getting outside help, even if you feel like you don't need outside help. So if you're already in a place of just, I just don't think that I can handle, you know, first off, there's so much generosity right now on all of Facebook, different groups that have popped up. There's ways to even get free support. Um, you know, I think it's more important than ever that you have some kind of positive infusion of inspiration every day. So there's some podcasts that I really like to listen to first thing in the morning. There's certain places I like, you know, keeping my eyes out for, you know, what's also going to uplift me, what's the positive perspective, because shifting our perspective is another inner peace skill, right? We can be fixated on the doom and gloom or the possibility, right? And the more you listen to the inspiring messages that this is the greatest, like, I really do believe that this is going to be one of the most magical, memorable times for our kids and ourselves, even though we're all confined, right? Because we're, in a way, kind of just being forced to just be present with each other, get extra creative. Like, we probably needed to mix things up. Maybe your group didn't need to mix it up as much because you guys already got a lot of mixing up going on, which is so inspiring. But, it's like, we really like how we step up here. Like, just that, like, knowing that I get to be an example for my kids. And you know what? I've got right now currently, how many? One, two, I've got three different mentors. I'm in a mastermind with a couple of colleagues, plus all of the community on Facebook. I am like super well supported, so I can continue to show up how I want to show up and still expand my business at a time that is crazy making going on out there. So I would say, everybody go get support. I mean, you're tapping into Lainey's resources here, but I mean, I'm available for coaching. I know there's so many resources. I do have a resource that I think could be really helpful as sort of a, I always like to do as much as I can on my own as well, especially when it comes to my inner peace, because it's what I teach, but I still get it from outside too. But I do have a free resource that we can pass along as well.
That's amazing and super, super generous of you. And I'll tag you as soon as this goes into, gets the live gets processed, and then you can put your links in our group. That's amazing. Okay. Thank you. I have one more question for you, Mary.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the single most important relationship that affects a person's inner peace?
Well, so a lot of people might think initially, well, it's our relationship with ourselves, right? But really what the answer is our relationship with reality. A relationship with reality. So here's the thing that happens with inner peace. When we are aligned with reality as it is unfolding, this is when we're in the flow, we have access to peace, creativity, we're adaptable, we can respond. When we are in resistance to reality, right? It happens to all of us. None of us are immune, but when we're in resistance, it could be tiny, like annoyed resistance, like with my neighbors, and their motor next door, like that's annoying, right? I'm like resisting that reality. Or there's big resistance, like, holy cow, don't make me stay put. I don't want to stay in my house for 30 days, right? And if we're fighting that, like, we have to find a way to align with reality. And I will say right now, it's a little bit trickier because our reality, like we could say in any moment of time that with the coronavirus, there's X number of cases, there's X number of new cases, there's X number of people who have recovered from coronavirus, there is 80% are self-resolving, right? So there's all kinds of facts that we can name about reality. The tricky part is, of course, it's changing daily, right? So every day we have a new reality to get to align with. But we want to make sure that we're not either exaggerating reality or minimizing it, right? So we can minimize reality by saying, hey, it's not a big deal. All these kids that went on spring break in Florida, it's not going to affect me. I'm not in the demographic. Well, now, we don't want to minimize reality. It's something we got to pay attention to. But exaggerating it and thinking that, 5 million people are going to die, it's going to, like, there's a way to go way overboard to where even like worrying that I'm going to get it's not reality right now. There's plenty, like, let's stay in our lane. wash your hands, do your social distancing, like do what you need to do, but be careful of the exaggerating reality beyond where it is in this moment in time. So it's a real practice for sure. And I've got I call it the inner peace reality check. And it's 6 questions that kind of help you get realigned to reality, like to see, to name that reality, to look at where you're resisting it, and to kind of give yourself options to realign. So that'll be my gift, is the inner peace reality check.
That's amazing. Thank you. And would you say that fear is the biggest sort of, challenge to inner peace?
Um, I think I think fear is one of the biggest aspects. I think like the bigger word I would say to inner peace is resistance. Anytime we're mentally, emotionally, even physically pushing against something, we do not have peace. Right? It's in the alignment with reality. It's the alignment with what is unfolding that peace is here. So it's like we notice we're in resistance, and it's like, oh, it's like I had a reaction. And then, we can keep practicing of, okay, calming that resistance. Like, okay, like my reptile brain just kicked in there for a minute, thought this was like way scarier than what it is. But I'm okay, really. I'm okay in the here and the now. I'm just going to be present. But fear, what is fear? Fear is resisting a future that hasn't happened yet, right? Or it's like resisting some unknown, right? And you guys know more than any, like you guys are really good at the unknown in so many ways. Like this is the thing I think to lead on within your community. You guys are good at this. Like you guys dealt with, probably you guys have more stories about adaptability and talk about fear. Like a lot of people would be afraid just to even remotely do what you guys do, right? A lot of us are afraid of homeschooling, and then we get thrown into it, right? But okay, what do? We adapt. We're like, all right, like we can do this. Like you've got this. You can figure this out. And if you don't know what to do, reach out and ask. Somebody knows, somebody in your community, somebody 1 or 2, referrals away can just help you find that center, help you really make this time like amongst the most magical of your worldly traveling schooling.
Wow. And those are powerful words. Thank you so much, Mary. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with our community. And I will tag you in the post. So of course, please do share your links with us. Thank you again.
Thank you, Lainey. Thanks for having me. I love it.
Bye.